Welcome to Bon Hill Geography. Today we are going to be looking at climate change agreement and mitigation strategy. These are vital tools in the fight against one of humanity's greatest challenges. These international accords aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, build resilience and promote sustainable development. But how do they work, and what are their strengths and limitations? At their core, these agreements foster global collaboration. They set ambitious targets, like the Paris Agreement in 2015, to try and limit warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, and ideally 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. These targets serve as benchmarks, guiding nations to align policies and actions toward a shared direction, all focusing on reducing the impact of climate change. Accountability is another key feature. It's all about setting goals with a time limit, so countries can't just sign up and then agree later down the line that they are accomplishing them. Countries submit their climate action plans. These are called Nationally Determined Contributions, or NDCs for short. Every 5 years, a global stocktake evaluates progress and encourages stronger commitments where possible. Agreements, however, also promote cooperation between different nations. Initiatives like the Green Climate Fund channel resources to vulnerable nations, enabling them to adapt to climate impacts and transition into clean energy. They've inspired massive investments into renewable energy and new innovation, paving the way for a cleaner future. Examples may include carbon capture and storage, whether this be from industry, power plants, or even direct air sequestration, as for example the new site in British Columbia. China and India have now produced some of the world's cheapest renewable energy technology, including wind energy, by the name of EV Wind in China, and solar panels in India, for as little as 11p per kilowatt. This has decreased by over 300% since the early 2000s. These are now cheaper sources than many fossil fuels, but they still pose challenges in their accessibility and connection to electricity distribution networks, like the national grid in the UK, where rural areas are typically better for electricity generation but have low voltage lines that cannot distribute power effectively. These setbacks require significant monetary investments to overcome. Additionally, these frameworks protect ecosystems and enhance resilience. In the background here we can see an example of desertification taking place, where nutrients are deprived from the ecosystem. By restoring degraded land, we are enhancing resilience and capturing carbon. Programs like the REDD+ incentivise forest preservation, while adaptation measures safeguard communities from climate change impacts. Some of these examples may include planting mangrove forests, which in turn reduce the impact of storm surges from tropical storms, which are likely to become more common as a result of climate change. But these agreements aren't without any challenges. Many lack binding enforcement, relying on peer pressure rather than legal penalties for non-compliance. As a result, many may decide to backtrack. The principle of shared but differentiated responsibilities can often lead to disputes, slowing down the progress further. For example, China may have larger responsibilities than the UK because their population is larger and, of course, they have a higher rate of emissions. As previously discussed, however, they do manufacture products for all around the world, so the responsibility should be better differentiated in many cases. As a result, negotiations can take years, and financial pleasures like the $100 billion annually promised in the Paris Agreement from various different nations frequently fall short. Despite this, at COP26 in 2021, some significant steps were made. Nations were committed to revisiting their NDCs to meet the 1.5 degrees target. A new initiative included the Global Methane Pledge, which aimed for a 30% reduction in methane emissions by 2030, and the finalisation of the Paris Rulebook improve transparency and accountability, so each country can be actively measured on the rate at which they are fighting climate change. COP26 also addressed the phasing down of coal, marking a step towards reducing reliance on fossil fuels. However, there were still gaps, as highlighted in COP26. To this day, commitments remain insufficient, current projections showing a warming of 2.4 degrees Celsius. This would exacerbate and eventually lead to the tipping of our tipping point, in which we'd see a propagation reaction with further release of carbon from sources which we are not actively releasing ourselves. Financial support for adaptation and loss damage remains underfunded, and voluntary pledges carry the risk of backtracking, with many nations refusing to meet their original agreement. Despite these challenges, climate agreements are a crucial foundation for the global action. By learning from past efforts and building on progress, we can chart a path towards a more sustainable future. If you enjoyed this video, please do feel free to check out my other videos on carbon and the water cycles.